Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So Cernovich is a popular influencer, and he's had some interesting takes in the past that I've agreed with, but clearly here he has revealed himself to be anti-Muslim. Okay? Now, he does a clever rhetoric trick where he says, "Oh, but I like high IQ Muslims." Okay, whatever. The point is, though, further, this sort of hatred of the poor. Now, he claims to be Christian for the most part, from my understanding, and Christianity has lots of Bible verses. Just type it in on your favorite search engine or grab your Bible and look it up. You will see that you're supposed to help the needy. And in Islam, us clothing the needy, feeding the needy, freeing a slave, expiate sins, and when we violate one of our oaths, as we learned in the fiqh section that I read the other day, check out the concise presentation of fiqh part 71 we just did. When you break an oath and you need to expiate for it, you need to feed the poor, clothe the poor, you can fast for 3 days, or free a slave, right? So we don't hate the poor in Islam. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, there were times where he didn't have a lot of food. And if you recall the hadith where I talked a lot about in Riyadh Salihin, where we're told if you are given a gift that's just the hoofs of a sheep, don't look down upon that gift. And this emphasizes that you need to be thankful for what you get and take things with gratitude, and don't be on your high horse like as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot destroy you. Recall the hadith further that talks about there was a man who was walking about the earth who was really haughty and felt himself, puffed up chest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a hole in the ground, the earth swallowed him up, and he's falling until the day of judgment. So he's falling right now, just in that black hole of nothing, falling into the void, because he felt himself so special. And we have countless hadiths and ayats that remind us to not look down at the poor, not to think of ourselves as so high, and to not worship money, and to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us many different favors, and we must not deny them. We must not become ungrateful. Okay? And in order to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, we need to look at those who have less than us, not at those who have more than us. And then we realize, oh snap, I better do better and all that. So when Cernovich says here, they're all on welfare, you're like, you could easily have your financial situation changed. Okay? Remember, a lot of these Christians were saying, oh, the Christians in Nigeria are suffering. Oh, well, are there a bunch of high IQ people only they're going to allow to come from Nigeria? No. They don't like the third world. They think everyone in the third world is low IQ. Nigeria has a lower economic status. So, will they allow the third world welfare needy Christians of Nigeria to come to America as refugees? No. You see the contradictions? They don't follow the Bible. They don't apply biblical charity. They look down on people who are not rich. So a bit of a classicist thing going on there. And they pretend that they are spiritual. If you really are spiritual, you feel empathy for the needy. I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know that He can make my situation worse. And I know that there's people who have it much better than me. And in the age of Instagram flexing, we always have to consistently check ourselves. And you shouldn't have FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, this chick's traveling, and you realize that a lot of stuff is staged. There's places in LA where you can pretend to be on a private jet. It's like a little mini studio for people to take selfies. You can rent a Lamborghini and make it seem as if you are driving it. There's a whole fake it till you make it scene. Again. And there's a lot of people in debt. So they're not really rich. They're just in massive credit card debt, paying high interest to the banks. The banks are winning. So, we should not shame people on welfare. Not everyone will have wealth. That doesn't mean we encourage sloths, slobs, and couch potatoes, but it does make us realize we are not better than someone just because we have a lot of cash. Alright? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can ruin us at any time. He goes further and says that's what makes it worse. It would be one thing if high IQ Muslims took over and ran Detroit like Dubai. Oh, Dubai, where there's like a brothel capital? I thought you were a Christian, sir. Dubai is prime for OF girls. They fly them out, they get ran through, some get their passports taken, and they're trafficked. Okay? It's worse than Miami, and it's worse than Las Vegas. Dubai is known for nasty pimpoids like Andrew Tate to go to and be lewd with. I've watched a couple of videos where people talk about the dark side of Dubai, what I hate about Dubai, and how workers in the hotels get their passports taken, how they're treated. I'm not impressed with Dubai. I don't see a lot of nature. I don't see a lot that I find impressive, and I don't want my daughters to ever step foot in that land. Dubai has the reputation of hedonism. It's literally flexed all the time by escorts. Rich prostitutes go to Dubai and get passed around wealthy men. If you're married and your husband goes to Dubai, good luck. That's worse than Thailand, if you know what I'm saying. Okay? So no. A high IQ Muslim, okay, yeah, I know what you're going to say maybe. Oh, well, they have these, decency laws. If you see the princess of Dubai, it looks like an Instagram escort. I don't know if the guy has multiple daughters, but the one who's marrying a rapper, like, she has so much makeup on, it's kind of scary. And you're like, oh, man. No, it's just a sandbox of chlamydia. I would not be bothered, but we are paying for these freeloaders and welfare cases, funding our own demise. So he thinks Muslims are only going to bring demise. They're all going to be on welfare. Does he talk about Christians on welfare? Are Christians on welfare bringing a demise? Are Christian women who decide to be stay-at-home moms instead of putting their kids in a daycare who need welfare freeloaders? Do you see the contradictions here? Either you hate welfare for Christians and be consistent. You have to hate it for everybody. You can't just hate it when only Muslims are on it. And again, when you feed the needy, you're doing a good deed. If you are religion testing, like imagine if a Muslim had a booth and they're handing out let's say I made some nice chili. Beef chili, halal. And I'm giving it in people's bowls and they're in a line. And I say, are you Muslim? And they say, no, I'm Christian. I say, sorry, you can't eat here. You're a freeloader. You're leading to the demise of this country. Get out of here. How would they feel? Well, what are you doing? That's a hungry person. Feed that person. But see, in the reverse, they're like, oh, they're religion testing others. They wouldn't want Christians to be turned away if they were needy, but they want to turn Muslims away. Muslims are going to bring in what? Going to bring in more modesty, cut down on the Cardi B, Britney Spears, hedonistic culture. That's a good thing. Less lust. American men struggle with not being able to control their desires. So there's lots of divorce because of cheating. In the Bible Belt, data shows that these monogamous married men who say they love monogamy are coping and getting variety with the digital mediums. Again, and how many Christian men, not too long ago, were complaining about their wives not giving them any sugar. It was a huge thing, and I remember just giggling as I was watching these Christians fight over why Christian wives don't want to have relations with their husbands. And then these men were coping with their hand, with adultery, or paying OF chicks online. and it was causing a lot of problems, and the Christian women were complaining in their Christian groups that their husbands are watching that stuff. And so again, Islam tells men to lower their gaze, women to cover. When women cover, there's less sexual energy around, and there's less temptation for men to want to cheat. Strippers gonna go out of work. In so many cases now, it's becoming legal to loiter for sex work. In California, the police cannot come to you and say, you know, are you loitering for sex work? That's a law. I've shared it in the past. Just look it up. Gavin Newsom passed it, unfortunately. And so now you could be eating dinner, eating breakfast with your family. Look out the window. There's a chick in a thong and high heels soliciting herself to strange men. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you can't accuse her of selling herself, because a police officer now cannot go and approach her and say, what are you doing here? And again, if you go in LA, you see tons of women walking the street in literally bathing suits. Sometimes it's literally just a thong, a jacket, and high heels, and a purse. Again, that's leading to the demise. Women covering their hair, having loose clothing, going with their kids to the masjid. That's not leading to decay. If you look at all the rules in Islam for behavior, you see that makes society better. Has Cernovich studied that? No. But again, he wants to keep getting in that hatred spin. Matt Walsh is struggling for which way he wants to go. Ben Shapiro is his boss. Shapiro wants war with Iran. He hates Muslims. If you criticize is not real, you're going to lose your job like Candace Owens. So Matt Walsh has to decide, okay, I've done What Is a Woman, that was my peak. Now I got to figure out where I want to go. He's losing people, and Nick Fuentes is winning him. He knows he has to pivot to be more far right. So what does he do? Let's attack Muslims. Okay? So Muslims, we know what a woman is. We embrace modesty. We're not into Cardi B culture, the stuff that Matt complains about. But Matt's still not happy. And remember, his boss, they've had, obviously they're having these meetings and being like, hey, you need to apply this new script. And Matt Walsh is trying to move his more mainstream audience into hating Muslims. Okay? Matt has also made posts saying America doesn't need to be the soup kitchen for the third world. Mr. Christian over here. Okay? And now you see, Cernovich thinks that poor Muslims will lead to the demise of America and that Islam will destroy America. In the past, he's complained about drug addicts. And I agree with him on those posts. Muslims are told not to use drugs. Specifically, stay away from intoxicants. We are a totally different mindset. We are told to have patience, and there's so many good things. Does he talk about that? Does he study that? No. Instead, what does he do? He focuses on the wealth of Dubai. So he values rich people more than poor people. And if you're a poor brown person, he hates you. If you're a rich brown person, he can cope with your brownness because you got that cash. Very sick mentality. Again and again, you will see Christians who really show that they are more classicist than they realize. And in Christianity, you don't see a whole lot of rich people are better than poor people. Now, there are poor people who are lost and they don't know which direction to go in life and they need help, so help them, guide them. He's not saying to really do that. When you think about how many Italians, my ancestors, who came over here and had very little, Irish too as well, they came over here and were like, okay, how do we survive? They needed help. Immigrants are going to need help. If I move to another country, I'm going to need help. It's expensive to move. You're in a whole new environment. And instead of showing mercy to the newcomer, to the traveler, they think, you're just here to ruin us. You have nothing good to bring us. We're perfect and there's nothing new you can show us, and we don't need to change anything about ourselves. We're just perfect. Very insane. Dubai is a materialistic hellhole, and when you die, you're not going to take none of that garbage with you. You will only take your good deeds. And who ruined Detroit? People sent manufacturing overseas. Republicans and Democrats essentially, and plenty of white politicians and white business owners sent those jobs abroad and ruined Detroit. Notice how they don't talk about that. Detroit also has those lead pipes. And Flint, Michigan has problem with lead pipes. Detroit has also a lot of gang and drug abuse. Let's think about that. Why not focus on those problems? Why is it that a Muslim woman who needs a little bit of help to get some rice, to get some bananas, to get some mandarin oranges, a nice little steak, you can't even get that much on EBT. I've never had EBT, but I know my mom is on it, and she doesn't get that much. A lot of Progresso and Campbell's soup cans. A lot of peanut butter. It's not really, you're not having caviar, balling it up. You're getting a lot of processed foods. It's not really healthy. You don't really get a lot of fresh vegetable options here. And also, food is expensive now, so that $250, that $300 that they're getting, depending on what they've been granted by their county, is not going to go very far. Food is very expensive right now in Trump's America, and it was expensive as well in Biden's America. The Uniparty isn't helping people afford quality, healthy food, okay? And more people don't want to grow food. Nor do they have time to be in the garden after work. They're exhausted. So again, I find it bizarre that the right wing is focusing so much on Muslims, who are some of the strongest people when you look at a religion. Look at the endurance of the Muslims of Palestine, the Muslims of Afghanistan. You got Muslims in Malaysia. You got Muslims existing in China. You look at how Muslims in Egypt endure the heat and are strong. It's just fascinating. They endure the heat, the weather. I was watching a travel vlogger who went to Iran, and he showed the hospitality there, and I remembered in my heart just like my humble beginnings. And you see these people existing even though they've had sanctions on them, war on them, regime change wars. It's just, wow, they keep on keeping on. And then you realize how coddled Americans are, and that as the economy crashes, you'll have a lot of people who can't get their meds, freaking out, having episodes, and how when America crashes, it'll be of like way worse than the Titanic going down, as they say. It's gonna be, I think, legendary of the history books, because of how many people have been coddled for so long, and who are mentally weak and have no real survival skills, no bushcraft skills, and they've forgotten their primal instincts, and then it'll just become dog eat dog, and then people will team up with the best warlord, and then you're gonna see some ugliness worse than the Civil War. And the Civil War took out many people with diarrhea. Diarrhea was a big killer. Today you have more people and more polluted water. You're gonna see a lot more people get sick. So I see the Muslims and so many countries as these strong people who know how to be thrifty and survive. He clearly doesn't look at the third world as anything other than a toilet. And he only respects the wealthy people. That's quite sad. Freeloaders, welfare cases, funding our own demise. I think that's sick to see a poor kid and think, you're never gonna be nothing, you're gonna lead to the destruction of America. Moses was a baby in a basket, and Pharaoh's wife had mercy on that little baby, and that mercy is needed. Women have to have mercy for the needy. helpless little babies who need help. You can't help everyone, but you should help as many as you can. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the blog.